Hello, welcome back to the Board Games 4K YouTube channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. We generally like to talk a load of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general, and in this video we're going to be talking about a war game that is sort of regarded as a bit of a classic now. We're going to be talking about Kemet, and this is a game where you will be sending your troops out into the desert to take control of temples whilst buying power tiles that will aid you in your quest to get 9 victory points that will allow you to win the game. So in this video we're going to be giving you a very brief overview of the rules. We'll be telling you what we do like, what we don't like, then we'll come back and we'll tell you whether or not Kemet is still worth your time and bother. I think it's 9 years after it was first released in 2011, maybe. But anyway, remember, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below, and we'll see you after this.
Board Games 4K.
So, Kemet, how'd you play this game? So Kemet is a war game slash area control game slash action selection game, right? Everyone's going to be given a player board, you're going to be given a series of markers, you're going to be given a certain amount of troops, and you're going to get 4 pyramids. Well, 3 in the core set, but if you've got the Tower City expansion, you're going to have a black pyramid as well. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to choose how to distribute all pyramids, right? You've got the blue pyramid, you've got the white pyramid, you've got the red pyramid, and you've got the black pyramid. You've got spaces to select a maximum of 3 pyramids. You can select 2, but you'll choose to distribute a certain amount of points between the pyramids that you have selected, right? So Kemet takes place over a certain amount of phases. You've got the day phase, you've got the night phase, and then you've got the dawn phase, right? And the person that wins the game is a player who has got 9 victory points, either temporary or permanent victory points, at the beginning of a dawn phase. That's how you win this game, you know what I mean? So the meat and potatoes of this game is the action selection mechanism. You'll see on your player board, you've got a certain amount of different actions that you can take, and you've got varying levels of the pyramid on your player board. You've got to remember that once you've spent your 5 action tokens, you've got to have occupied at least one of every level of the pyramid on your player board, right? So the day phase is where you're going to be taking actions. You're going to take one of your little markers and you're going to place it on the action that you want to take. And you'll also notice that in this game you have got these things called DI cards, or Divine Intervention cards, and these are sort of cards that give you a little bit of a leg up, a little bit of a boost, and you can play these dependent on what the icon is on the DI card, right? So if you've got a DI card that you want to play and it's got a day symbol on it, you can play it during this phase, you know what I mean? So many actions you can take in this game. You can take the prayer action, and what you'll do, you'll just give yourself 2 prayer points, and these are the points that you'll be spending to take different actions in this game, you know what I mean? So the second action you can take is you can raise a pyramid. You'll notice that each of the pyramids is basically like a D4, so you've got 1 to 4 on each point of the die, and you'll be able to spend prayer points equal to the level of the pyramid to raise it up to the next level. So if you wanted to raise it from level 1 to level 3, it'll cost you 2 and then 3, which is 5 points to raise it up, right? And what pyramids do, they basically allow you to purchase power tiles of a certain level that correspond with the level of your pyramid, right? So the more crazy badass your pyramid is, the more crazy weaponry or abilities you can pilfer from the display. There's a second thing you could do with pyramids. Basically, you can teleport a troop, which is a set of units, has a maximum of 5. You can teleport them from a pyramid to any obelisk on the board, right? And that's just a case of just paying 2 prayer points and then moving a troop into that space. So the next thing you could do is you could buy a power tile. You'll choose a power tile that's the same colour as a pyramid that you have and the same level as a pyramid that you have, and then you'll pay the cost, either 1, 2, 3 or 4 prayer points, and you'll take that pyramid, and if there's a monster on it, then you'll take the figurine and you'll place it in your district where you've got a unit, and then you'll be able to move that monster out onto the board when the unit moves. So like we said, there's different coloured power tiles. There's red power tiles, blue, white and black power tiles. The red power tiles are more to do with combat. The blue power tiles are more defensive. The white power tiles are a little bit of a mix, and the black power tiles are more aggressive, but they do have some defensive qualities as well. So some of our favourite power tiles in this game is the giant scorpion. You'll get a lovely looking miniature, and the troop that it's linked with will get +1 movement capacity, +2 strength, +2 damage. You've also got the Carnage power tile. It's going to cost you 2 prayer points, and in battle, all of your troops gain 1 damage. Moving on to the blue power tiles, you've got the Ancestral Elephant, and for the Link troop, you'll get +1 movement, +1 strength, +1 protection. And then you've got the Act of God, which is take an additional silver token, must be placed and played at the same time as a regular token. And this basically gives you 2 actions for the price of 1. So that is extremely, extremely powerful. So some of the white power tiles you've got the Priestess, and this basically reduces the cost of a power tile by 1, and you can get the level 1 power tiles for free. Bloody hell, it's like going to a jumble sale. And you've got the Mummy, and for any troops that are on the same space as the miniature of the Mummy, they get +1 movement capacity, +2 strength, and you also get a free DI card in the night phase. Talk about state benefits in ancient Egypt, eh? So the black power tiles, you've got the Devourer. For the Link troop, you get +1 movement capacity, +2 strength, and the Link troop is immune to any damage dealt when it is not in battle. And also, after winning a battle in which you destroyed at least 2 opposing units, you gain 1 extra battle victory point. I think the Devourer is one of our favourite power tiles. It's powerful, and it's a good way of clocking up those permanent victory points that you really, really need. Right, so that's some of the power tiles that are available in this game. There's a billion more power tiles to behold. So the next action you could do is you can recruit. If you've been a little bit foolhardy and wayward in your attacking strategy and you've got your ass kicked, you've been mullered a few times, then you can bring these troops back into battle by spending prayer points equal to the amount of troops you want to bring onto the board. But you've got to remember, you can't have no more than 5 units in a troop. You got that. So next action you could do is a movement action. There's 2 things you can do with this. You can move to an adjacent space, or you could teleport, or you could do both, right? And you might find that some of the power tiles that you got, or DI cards, might be able to increase your capacity for movement. So you might be able to move 2, 3 spaces. You might have power tiles that allow you to teleport from an obelisk rather than a pyramid, right? But you do have the option of picking troops up and dropping them off on the way back. But if you come to an opponent's district, you have to stop at a wall, regardless of how many movement points you've got left, because you might have forgotten your little B&Q ladder, so you'll have to scale over the walls, you know what I mean? So if you find yourself in the same space as an opponent, then a battle will happen, right? You'll take your battle cards, you'll choose 2, you'll pick 1 to play, and you'll have to discard the other one. You'll see on your battle card you've got the little sword thing, which refers to the strength of the card. Then you've got the amount of damage that you'll do after you've calculated strength, and then you've got the defense, which will try and mitigate the amount of damage you do. So you'll take 2 cards, you'll be able to play some DI cards under this, as many DI cards as you want, but even if you choose not to play them after you've actually put them under your card, you will lose them. And you'll reveal, you'll calculate who has the highest strength, and that player will be the champion of the battle, right? Then you'll calculate the amount of damage you do minus the amount of defense icons you've got, and then you'll take that many troops off the board. And if the player who was the champion has at least 1 unit left in the space, then they will get a permanent battle victory point. If the defender has any troops left in that space, then they can scuttle off like a little coward to an adjacent space chosen by the champion, or they can remove their troops from the board and they'll get 1 prayer point for every troop that they recall. Right, so that concludes the day phase, and then you're going to move on to the night phase. What you'll do here, if you are in control of the Sanctuary of All Gods, this doesn't appear on the 2 or 4 player map. It's exclusive to the 3 and 5 player map. But you'll be able to take 2 troops off the board to gain a certain number of prayer points, right? It's up to you whether you do that. I can give a toss whether you do it or not. If you are in control of the Delta Temple, you can remove 1 troop and you'll get a certain amount of prayer points. If you're in control of 2 temples, you will take a temporary temple victory point. And also, if you have any pyramids that are up to level 4 and you're still in control of them, you will take a temporary pyramid victory point. Then each player that's in control of a temple will gain a certain amount of prayer points that is equal to amount of onks or anks, or however you pronounce it, on the board. Everyone will get 2 prayer points regardless of whether they own a temple or not. You'll gain a free DI card no matter what. And then you'll take your action tokens off your player board and you'll go again until somebody has 9 victory points at the start of the day phase, and they will win the game of Kemet. So what do we like about Kemet? So the first thing that we really like about this game is the fact that because each city is equidistant from each other, then combat is encouraged from round one. You are encouraged to basically just teleport straight off the bat, or maybe not straight off the bat, but maybe get a power tile behind you and then go for broke and just keep pummeling the opposition, because those permanent victory points are essentially your ticket to victory. It's no good just relying on the temporary victory points of the area control, because that means that you become a target and you can have a battle anyway, and you don't get battle victory points for being a defender. So you are encouraged to get stuck in and have a good old tear up straight away. It's a bit like going down a pub on a Saturday night, isn't it? So the second thing that we really like about Kemet is the way that the combat mechanism is designed, right? You've got a hand of battle cards. Everyone's got the same battle cards. And the fact that you've got to choose one to play, but you are also forced to discard one, means that because all these cards are really fantastic, and they do have different uses depending on whether you're the defender or the attacker, you've got to try and calculate in advance who's going to attack you and what you're going to do with these battle cards, whether or not you want to throw away the lose 2 troop but get 5 strength battle card because you think, well, I don't want to lose those 2 troops, or whether or not you're thinking, well, I don't really need to do any damage because I'm going to get weakened in this battle and then somebody's going to come in and try and take me over, right? So the fact that you are forced to discard a card makes you sort of think about a few turns in the future. It also depletes your options in the short term, but it gets you closer to getting all them cards back in the long term, doesn't it? So the third thing that we really like about Kemet is the absolute abundance of power tiles in this game. The amount of tiles you got is shocking. I think if you put them all end to end and you could shrink yourself down to the size of maybe like a peanut, then you could probably use this as a footbridge to take a nice afternoon stroll to France, right? Because there are about 17,974 tiles in this game, right? They are all sort of mainly balanced, so it doesn't matter whether or not you miss out on that giant scorpion. There's going to be other options available for you to get that powerful war beast, no matter what you want to do. And it does mean that no matter what you do, this game is going to be different every time you play it, you know what I mean? So the final thing that we really like about Kemet is the temporary nature and the permanent nature of the victory points. You do need to get stuck in and have a bit of a scrap, right? But if you just focus solely on battles, then you're going to miss out on all them lucrative prayer points from the Delta Temple and all the temples that you got. And what it means is that if you attack the temples all the time, you're not going to have the strength in numbers to hold the temples. You need a bit of both, but it's very difficult to merge the strategy of the temporary victory points and the permanent victory points together into a game-winning strategy. And that's one of the fantastic things about this game, is you need to do both, but it's very difficult to blend the two together. So what don't we like about Kemet? So the first thing that we don't like about Kemet is that after a battle, you're only awarded a permanent battle victory point if you have at least one troop left in the area. And time again, we've played this game. I can't remember whether this is like exclusive to the 1.5 version rules. I have to go back into the rulebook and have a look. But it may be the case that you might have had a stonking victory with strength, but all your opponents played that 3 damage card that's wiped out the majority of your units. They might have played a DI card that basically destroys a lot of your units. And because you ain't got no units in that space, you ain't going to get that battle victory point, right? So it's almost like you've won the battle, but you didn't get anything for it. And we've played this quite a few times where a lot of people don't seem to understand or even like that mechanism. They think because they've won the battle, then they should at least get something for it. And there's a lot of occasions where you stomp around a map with your scarab beetle, and basically all you're going to get is a load of beetle dung. So the second thing we don't like about Kemet is that the retreat action is a little bit bloody pointless unless you've already got troops in the region that you're retreating from. But if that was the case, why would you have troops in a region that's adjacent? Why, when you would just probably commit them to the battle in the first place? But if you choose to retreat to an adjacent space, the likelihood is you're going to be weakened anyway. You can have maybe 1 or maybe just 2 troops in that region. And all that means is that the player that beat you up the first time is just going to come following after you and do you over a second time to get 2 battle victory points instead of 1 permanent victory point, right? And that just seems a bit of a sort of a tacked on rule, when really the only option you're going to really need is to recall your troops and get a couple of extra prayer points in it. So the next thing that we don't like about Kemet is the game length tends to fluctuate every time we play it. I mean, we played games with this where it's been over in maybe an hour to an hour and a half, but we've also played games of this where it's gone in excess of 3.5 hours. And there's not any reason why, if you've got a 5-player game and everyone's going after those temporary victory points, there's a case of sort of seesawing between who's in the lead, who's not in the lead. If everyone's a bit tentative about getting stuck in and having a battle, or they've been burnt because they've had a couple of bad battles and haven't got anything from the points that we mentioned in the last point, then the game tends to slow down if people just tend to get a little bit nervous and then want to stick to holding on to them temples, you know what I mean? So the final thing that we don't like about Kemet is that even though this game has seen rule revision upon rule revision, the rules are still a little bit bloody unclear. I mean, we've been playing this nearly 10 years and still rules come up where I'm looking at Board Game Geek or I'm looking at the FAQ thinking, what the hell does this mean? I'll give you an example of this, is that we played this the other day. My mate Gavi took over my wife's district with a blue pyramid in it, and the rules say that you control the pyramid, you control all the different abilities that pyramid gives you. But he didn't have the blue pyramid marker on his player board because he covered it up with a black pyramid. And he's thinking, I really, really want to get one of them power tiles, but how do I take the action to allow me to get a blue power tile? There's no way I could do it. So even though the rules tell you that you could assume control of every single ability of the pyramid, you obviously bloody well don't. So to summarise, is Kemet still worth playing today and in the future? So we're going to say an overwhelming yes. I mean, this is one of our favourite games of all time, no question about it. In fact, in our opinion, it's one of the best war games you can play today. The sheer amount of options that are presented to you from just buying the power tiles alone means that, like we said, no two games are ever going to be the same. I know it's easy to say that, but with Kemet, that is absolutely the case. The rules do suffer from sort of a little bit of lack of clarity even to this day, and that's a bit disappointing that we still have to refer to rules, FAQs and all that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, Kemet is an epic, tense and hugely enjoyable war area control game that everybody who is even remotely into board games should be playing and even owning today. There was a recent Kickstarter for a refresh of this. It's called Kemet, Blood and Sand. We didn't back that because we just thought, well, what's the point? Because we've got all the expansions for this. We've got this Cyclades crossover kit and all that. So we didn't really see the point in backing a game that we've already owned. We have so much fun with this. We're really not bothered about Cult of the New or anything like that. So if you haven't got Kemet, then we implore you to go out and search for a copy of this, because it is without doubt one of the greatest games ever made. So there you go, that's Kemet. Remember, if you are new here, please consider subscribing to this channel. Leave a comment in that section down below. We'll see you next time.